Have you ever felt like life is coming at you from every direction, emails piling up, relationships straining, responsibilities growing heavier by the hour, and you're just trying to stay afloat? What if I told you there's a quiet strength, an ancient path, that could help you stay calm even when the world feels like it's crumbling around you? And what if mastering just a few key principles could shift your entire way of thinking, transforming stress into strength, chaos into clarity, and pain into purpose? In the middle of all the noise, the stress, the deadlines, and the disappointments we all face, it's incredibly easy to feel like we're drowning. The weight of daily life, whether it's work pressure, family conflict, or unexpected setbacks, can leave us overwhelmed and reactive. But there is a way to rise above it all. A path that doesn't ignore hardship, but teaches you how to remain unshaken in the middle of it. Imagine for a moment that no matter what life throws at you, you remain centered, calm, composed, and in control. It's not a fantasy. This is the core of Stoicism, a powerful ancient philosophy that has helped warriors, emperors, thinkers, and ordinary people like you and me build resilience, emotional mastery, and unshakable inner peace. Today, we're not just talking theory. We're going to explore 10 timeless Stoic principles, real, practical tools you can use to transform how you handle life's inevitable ups and downs. These aren't abstract ideas, they're practices you can apply starting today. Whether you're in the middle of a tough breakup, buried under a mountain of tasks, or just searching for a sense of direction, Stoicism offers you a clear and empowering perspective. With each principle, you'll discover how to shift your mindset, find your center, and stay grounded in the face of anything. So stay with me, because as we walk through these 10 life-changing teachings, you'll learn not just how to survive, but how to thrive. And it all begins with the very first Stoic foundation, discovering a firm, unshakable purpose that will guide you through every storm. We talked about mastering your emotions in a chaotic world. But every stormy sea needs a compass, and that compass is your purpose. Imagine setting sail on a vast ocean with no destination in mind. The waves toss you wherever they please. The wind decides your path. Every change in weather becomes a crisis. That's exactly what life feels like when you live without a firm purpose, directionless, reactive, and vulnerable to whatever the world throws your way. Epictetus, one of the most respected Stoic thinkers, said it best: difficulties show a person's character, and the greater the difficulty, the more glory in overcoming it. That's not just a clever quote to hang on your wall. It's a challenge, a wake-up call. Because when you have a clear and firm purpose, it becomes your compass, guiding you through the storms of life with steadiness and strength. But here's the truth, that purpose won't magically appear. You won't stumble upon it by accident. It is shaped through moments of honest, often uncomfortable, reflection. You must ask yourself the tough questions: what truly matters to me? What do I stand for when no one's watching? What kind of person do I want to become? Your purpose isn't just about career milestones or personal ambitions. It's about values, integrity, the deeper reasons behind the things you do, the why that gets you up in the morning, especially on the hard days. Once you've identified it, your purpose becomes more than just a motivational phrase. It's your anchor. And when the chaos of life starts to rise, setbacks, criticism, stress, your purpose doesn't let you drift. It steadies you. The mountains that once felt impossible to climb begin to look more like stairs. Every obstacle becomes just another step towards something greater. Think of it this way: when your values and goals are clear, the noise around you fades. The world seems more manageable. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop chasing approval and start chasing meaning. That's the beauty of Stoicism. It doesn't hand you a life free of struggle, it gives you the tools to stay upright when the waves hit. Your purpose, then, is not just a destination. It's a flame you carry, One that lights your way and reminds you that your path matters, no matter how dark the world may seem. But now that you have a sense of purpose, how do you protect it daily? How do you build the inner discipline to stay aligned with it when distractions, emotions, and setbacks threaten to pull you off course? And now that you've begun to uncover your deeper purpose, let's take it further, because knowing it is one thing. Living it every single day? That's where your strength is forged. This kind of inner strength, the kind built on Stoic wisdom and unwavering purpose, is not easily shaken. It doesn't crumble under pressure. It doesn't bend to the winds of other people's opinions. Why? Because it's rooted in something solid, something you chose deliberately and truthfully. A firm purpose isn't something you randomly stumble upon during a quiet afternoon. It's something you uncover through long, honest moments with yourself. It takes time. It takes courage. You have to peel back the layers of superficial goals and short-term desires. You have to dig past what sounds good, and discover what feels right. It might mean questioning everything you've been told. It might mean letting go of habits that no longer serve you. It might mean seeing yourself not for who you've been, but for who you're truly capable of becoming. This is the journey of real self-discovery, not a one-time event, but a continual unfolding. As you grow, your understanding of purpose deepens. And once you've found it, truly found it, you don't just write it down and move on. You protect it. You nurture it. You commit to it. This is where diligence enters the picture. Staying true to your purpose requires effort, perseverance, a quiet kind of toughness. It means showing up for your values every single day, not just when you're inspired, but especially when you're tired, discouraged, or tempted to quit. Setbacks will come. Failures are inevitable. But with purpose guiding you, those moments aren't dead ends, they're detours that still lead forward. Your purpose transforms those obstacles from walls into steps. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead, you ask, "How does this help me move closer to who I'm becoming?" Think of a firm purpose like a lighthouse in a raging storm. You might not know how long the storm will last, or how far the waves will toss you. But as long as you can see that light, you won't lose your way. It's not just about direction. It's about security, stability. When emotions surge and the world feels out of control, your purpose becomes the life raft that keeps your head above water. It reminds you that even when everything else feels uncertain, you still have control over your direction. That's the core of Stoicism. It's not just a philosophy filled with lofty quotes. It's a daily practice. A reminder that real power isn't found in controlling everything around you. It's found in staying committed to what you believe in, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Epictetus said it best. True power lies in our ability to stay committed to our purpose. So ask yourself, are you living your days with that kind of resolve? Something powerful starts to happen, even in the face of chaos. You find yourself unshaken. Because in the light of Stoic wisdom, even external obstacles begin to lose their power. Nothing feels impossible when your purpose is clear. And nothing, absolutely nothing, can truly shake your resilient spirit unless you allow it. That's why now is the time to pause, reflect, dive deep into what drives you. Ask yourself the hard questions. What principles do I want to live by? What matters most to me? Even when no one is watching? Write it down. Make it real. Internalize it until it becomes your North Star, something that guides your steps even in the darkest moments. And once that purpose is rooted, you'll need to guard it fiercely. One of the first threats you'll face isn't the world, it's your own reaction to the world. Especially when someone offends you. Because let's face it, being offended is human. We've all felt it. A harsh word, a cold dismissal, a subtle insult. Our instinct? We want to react, to defend ourselves, to fight back. But this is where Stoicism steps in like a trusted mentor, offering a different path, not one of retaliation, but of reflection. Here's the truth, our emotions aren't caused by other people. They're caused by how we interpret what those people say or do. And this is the most liberating truth of all. Because it means that we, not the world, hold the power to choose how we respond. Every time you resist the impulse to snap back, to get angry, to spiral into frustration, you're doing something far more powerful than reacting. You're building a mental muscle. You're training your mind to remain calm under pressure, composed in chaos. And that's not just a skill. That's an art form. But like any art, it takes daily practice. You don't wake up one day fully in control of your thoughts, you earn it. One decision at a time. And you can start small. Set tiny, achievable goals for yourself each day. Something as simple as completing a task without distraction. As you meet these goals, you're not just getting things done, you're proving to yourself that you are in control of your mind. And that proof? It becomes the foundation of unshakable self-confidence. As you build this habit, start paying closer attention to your emotions. Not to suppress them, but to understand them. Where do they come from? What triggers them? What thoughts feed them? Because the moment you realize you can choose your response, not just in theory, but in practice, everything changes. You stop being ruled by the emotions of the moment, and instead start becoming the master of your own inner world. Let me paint a picture. Imagine a baker, someone who wakes up each morning before dawn, flour on their hands, completely absorbed in perfecting their craft. This baker doesn't chase applause. They don't collapse under criticism. They don't brag when praised, nor sulk when ignored. They simply return, day after day, to the work that matters. That steady dedication is where their peace comes from. That quiet focus is what gives them power. And the same goes for you. When you dedicate yourself to mastering your thoughts and emotional responses, without seeking validation from the outside, you begin to unlock a rare form of freedom. So how do we take this mindset and guard it against daily distractions, negativity, and emotional noise? That's exactly what we'll dive into in the next part. Right pointing finger emoji, how to protect your mind like sacred space, and create unbreakable emotional discipline. Stay with me. And just like that focused baker, who rises each day with quiet discipline, ignoring noise and praise alike, you, too, can train your mind to focus solely on what matters: growth, clarity, and mastery. Because here's the truth. When you stop chasing approval and stop reacting to every little opinion tossed your way, something incredible happens. You become free. Genuinely free. Free from the anxiety of comparison. Free from the fear of judgment. Free from the endless cycle of overthinking and doubt. But that kind of freedom doesn't come by accident. It comes from guarding your mind like sacred ground. From being deliberate about what you allow into your internal world. Your thoughts, your focus, your emotions. After all, you wouldn't bring trash into your home, would you? So why let toxic thoughts, destructive media, or negative people take up residence in your mind? Setting boundaries isn't just about saying no to others, it's about saying yes to your own peace. Surround yourself with what uplifts you. Read books that expand your perspective. Have conversations that stretch your thinking. Spend time with people who fuel your growth instead of feeding your doubt. Because your mental environment is everything, and the wrong energy, left unchecked, can poison even the strongest mindset. This is the true power of Stoic philosophy. It's not just ancient wisdom carved in stone, it's a living, breathing framework for modern life. It teaches us that emotional maturity isn't about suppressing your feelings, but about understanding them deeply, and choosing how to respond with clarity and strength. Let's be clear, emotional control doesn't mean pretending to be cold or unaffected. It means creating space, a pause, a breath between the thing that triggers you and how you choose to respond. One of the most practical tools to build that space is mindfulness, or meditation. These aren't just trendy wellness buzzwords. They are training grounds for your attention, sharpening your awareness like a sword. Every time you sit with your breath, Notice your thoughts without reacting. And return to the present. You're doing reps for your mind. You're building the power to respond with intention instead of impulse. That space, the one between stimulus and response, is where your freedom lives. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Another essential part of guarding your mind, another key to protecting your inner peace. Cultivating what psychologists call a growth mindset, and what the Stoics have practiced for centuries without needing a label. It's the ability to see every challenge not as a threat to your comfort, but as an invitation to rise, adapt, and evolve. Instead of thinking, "Why is this happening to me?" you start to ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" Every difficulty becomes a training ground. Every hardship, a sharpening stone. And every failure, just a stepping stone dressed in disguise. That single shift in perspective can change everything, from how you view setbacks to how quickly you bounce back from them. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, what looked like chaos reveals itself as a lesson in progress. So next time life pushes you off course, remember, you're not being tested to break. You're being invited to build. Guarding your mind is not a one-time act. It's not a switch you flip. It's a lifelong discipline. A decision you make every single day to control what you can, your thoughts, your reactions, your choices, and release what you cannot. It's the quiet power of refusing to live like a victim, no matter what the world throws your way. The more you practice this mindset, the more it becomes your default operating system. And over time, you'll notice something extraordinary. The storms outside grow less and less threatening. Because your peace no longer depends on calm weather, it lives inside you. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who knew hardship intimately, taught this clearly: we cannot control the opinions or actions of others, but we can control how we react to them. That one sentence holds the secret to emotional resilience in the modern world. Especially today, when criticism is constant, online, in public, sometimes even from those closest to us. But here's the truth: just because someone throws judgment at you doesn't mean you have to carry it. Everyone has their own lenses, their own pain, their own worldview, and not all of it will align with yours. That's okay. What matters isn't their opinion. What matters is your clarity. The first step to handling criticism: understand yourself deeply. When you know exactly why you're doing something, when you've taken the time to reflect on your intentions and align your actions with your values, then someone else's opinion loses its grip. Their words may echo, but they don't stick. They don't sting. This kind of self-awareness is your armor. It keeps your spirit intact when others try to chip away at your confidence. You stop shrinking in the face of doubt. You start standing tall in the truth of who you are. And once you master this, you'll begin to see criticism, even the harsh kind, not as an attack, but as a moment of choice. A chance to grow. A chance to learn. Or a chance to simply let it pass like wind through trees. In the next section, we'll go deeper into this idea: how do you respond to criticism with strength, instead of reacting in weakness? Choose clarity over conflict, and that choice makes all the difference. As we continue building on the Stoic foundation of self-awareness, here's a key truth: you are not obligated to react. When criticism comes your way, and it will, don't rush to defend, attack, or retreat. Instead, pause, reflect, breathe. Ask yourself with honesty: is there a grain of truth in what they're saying? Because here's the surprising part: even the harshest criticism can carry value, not because it's delivered kindly, but because it reveals something worth examining. It might highlight a blind spot. It might expose an area where you're growing. It might simply confirm that you're doing something bold enough to challenge others. That in itself is a sign of progress. You don't have to accept every critique as gospel. In fact, you shouldn't. But being open to feedback, even uncomfortable feedback, is a mark of wisdom and maturity. It shows that you are more committed to becoming better than to appearing flawless. This is where Stoicism calls on us to develop two powerful traits, patience and gentleness. Patience is your shield. It protects your peace. It helps you sit still in the discomfort of criticism without letting it pierce your core. Gentleness is your sword. Not to strike, but to preserve relationships, to speak calmly, even when spoken to harshly, and to stand firm without hardening your heart. Think about the great spiritual figures, saints, monks, ascetics, who were insulted, ridiculed, even attacked. Yet they responded not with anger, but with stillness. Not because they were weak, but because they had mastered the art of inner control. They stayed true to their path, unshaken. You can do the same. Now, developing this kind of emotional endurance doesn't mean you ignore all feedback or become numb to the world. No, that's not strength. That's avoidance. Instead, you build what the Stoics would call a resilient spirit, the ability to listen without absorbing everything, to evaluate without overreacting. This means understanding that not all criticism is really about you. Sometimes, people project their pain, their fears, their insecurities onto others. What they say may reflect their internal battles more than your external actions. Recognizing this allows you to depersonalize the moment and protect your self-worth. That's the freedom Stoicism gives you. The freedom to choose your response. You don't have to let someone else's comment become the script you live by. You don't have to let their judgment define your identity. You are the one who decides what stays and what passes. You are the one who filters feedback through the lens of your truth. And that kind of self-possession, that's real power. Coming up next, we'll take this even further. What if you could turn criticism not just into resilience, but into growth? What if every offense became an opportunity for transformation? Let's explore how the Stoics approached the art of transforming offense, and how you can too. Let's continue a journey into emotional mastery by exploring one of the Stoics' most powerful tools, transforming offense into strength. When someone criticizes you, it can feel personal, especially when the words come from someone close. But here's the key: you have the power to choose what to take in and what to let go. You're not obligated to carry every opinion with you like baggage. Instead, treat each piece of criticism like a tool on a workbench. Keep what sharpens you. Discard what dulls your clarity. This selective mindset is what separates emotional exhaustion from emotional growth. Not every critique deserves space in your mind. But the ones that do, they're the ones that help you evolve. When the feedback comes from someone you care about, a friend, a sibling, a partner, resist the urge to shut down. Instead, engage with curiosity. Ask them, what did you mean by that? Can you help me understand where you're coming from? These kinds of calm, open conversations don't just clear misunderstandings, they build bridges. They deepen trust. They replace assumptions with clarity and resentment with mutual respect. And something remarkable happens when you respond this way. People notice. Your ability to handle criticism with grace and emotional maturity becomes a quiet inspiration to others. They see that you're not ruled by your ego. You're guided by understanding. And that makes you a leader, not just in words, but in presence. This is the essence of Stoic strength. Epictetus once said, "What frightens and dismays us is not the events themselves, but the way we think about them." It's not the insult that stings the most, it's our interpretation of it. When someone offends you, the real wound isn't caused by the words themselves, but by how much you let them shape your identity. And that realization? It's liberating. It means you are in control. You decide what affects you. You decide what stays and what passes. And that's not about suppressing emotions or pretending nothing hurts. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be made of stone, it invites you to be aware, awake, and in command. You can feel hurt. You can feel disappointed. But you don't have to be ruled by it. Between what's said and how you respond, there's a pause. And in that pause lies your greatest power, the freedom to choose your reaction. So the next time you feel offended, instead of reacting impulsively, Try asking yourself, what can I learn from this? What does my reaction reveal about me? That space of reflection is where growth lives. And in the next section, we'll go even deeper into this idea, exploring how forgiveness can become your strongest form of freedom. Because letting go of offense isn't weakness. It's wisdom in action. Ready to find out how? And within that space, the pause between emotion and response, lies one of the most powerful abilities you can develop, the ability to respond in a way that reflects your highest values and long-term goals, rather than fleeting emotion. One of the most practical and empowering tools for this is called cognitive reframing. It's the art of looking at a situation from a new angle, shifting the lens through which you interpret what just happened. When you feel offended, instead of immediately reacting or withdrawing, pause and ask yourself a simple yet powerful question: what can I learn from this? This doesn't mean you have to accept or agree with someone who's crossed a line. Not at all. But by exploring the possibility that there might be something of value, maybe a truth hidden beneath poor delivery, or even a moment to clarify your own beliefs, you take the experience and turn it into growth. Let's say a friend criticizes your lifestyle, your career, your schedule, your choices. You feel that sting. But then you ask yourself, is there any merit to this? Maybe it's not about changing your path, but about affirming why you've chosen it in the first place. Sometimes offense is simply a mirror that gives you the chance to stand taller in your own truth. Stoicism also invites us to practice something even deeper: empathy. That's right. When someone offends you, instead of immediately judging them, try to put yourself in their shoes. What might they be going through that caused them to lash out, to criticize, to speak without care? This doesn't mean excusing bad behavior. Nor does it mean ignoring boundaries. But it does mean recognizing a fundamental Stoic insight: people often act from pain, fear, or confusion, not from clarity or malice. When you see that, your anger loses its grip. You begin to replace fury with understanding. And from understanding, peace can emerge. But perhaps one of the most transformative things you can do when hurt is this: practice forgiveness. It sounds simple, but it's profoundly powerful. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to feel the pain. Stoicism teaches that by forgiving, not for them, but for you, you release yourself from the emotional weight that keeps you stuck. Forgiveness isn't approval. It's liberation. When you forgive, you're not saying what they did was okay. You're saying, this no longer controls me. You reclaim your clarity, your focus, your future. It's a gift, a quiet, freeing gift, that you give to yourself, so you can move forward with calm instead of chaos. This, right here, is the Stoic path. Not one of avoidance, but of engagement with life's hardest moments in a way that makes you stronger. Because true strength doesn't come from pretending to be unaffected. It comes from facing adversity, absorbing the lesson, and rising above it. In the next section, we'll go even deeper into this idea, because if forgiveness is the release, then facing difficulty is the forge. Ready to discover how embracing life's struggles can become the very fuel for your inner strength? Not by avoiding difficulties, but by facing them. That's how resilience is truly built. Each time you feel offended, criticized, or misunderstood, you're standing at a crossroads. You can react in frustration, or you can pause, reflect, and grow stronger. Every offense, no matter how small or sharp, becomes a chance to train your inner strength. Just like a muscle grows stronger through repeated resistance, your character is forged in the fire of challenges. And just like weightlifting, the more consistent your practice, the more natural it becomes. One day, you'll look back and realize, what used to shake you, now barely stirs you. But let's be honest, this isn't instant. Transforming offense into resilience is not something you master in a weekend. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes awareness of your own thoughts and the willingness to rise above your emotions again and again. Each moment you choose growth over reaction. You're reinforcing a powerful habit. And with each repetition, the next time becomes easier. This is where Epictetus offers us one of his most profound insights. We are the ones who assign meaning to events. In other words, fear and shame aren't created by the situation itself, they're created by how we interpret the situation. Let that sink in. The emotion you feel isn't coming from the world outside, it's coming from the story you tell yourself about the world. And once you truly grasp that truth, you unlock a new freedom. You can begin to change the story. You can reframe how you see fear, shame, embarrassment, or even failure. You stop being a passive recipient of emotion, and instead become the author of your emotional experience. Take fear, for example. It often creeps in from the shadows of the unknown. It whispers about outcomes that might happen, scenarios that could go wrong. It's a protective instinct, yes, but if left unchecked, it becomes a cage. Stoicism doesn't teach us to suppress fear. It teaches us to face it directly, to look it in the eye, break it down, and understand it. Ask yourself, what exactly am I afraid of? Take that fear and dissect it. Pull it apart. Put it under the light of reason. Most of the time, you'll find that the monster in your mind is just a shadow cast by uncertainty. Let's say you fear public speaking. The idea of standing in front of a room, all eyes on you, heart racing. But why? Is it fear of judgment? Fear of making a mistake? When you name those fears, they shrink. You begin to realize, everyone stumbles. The audience isn't there to tear you down. They're there to listen, to learn. And even if you do stumble, so what? That moment won't define you unless you let it. This shift, from paralyzing fear to grounded courage, is the essence of Stoic power. And in the next section, we'll look at another shadow that looms large in many lives, shame. But just like fear, shame too can be dismantled, and even transformed into strength. But when you start breaking down the fear, something surprising happens. You begin to see it differently. You realize that the audience isn't a wall of harsh judgment, they're just people. People who are there not to attack or humiliate, but to listen and learn. And even if you make a mistake, and you probably will at some point, it's not a catastrophe. It's not the end of your credibility or the destruction of your value. Every speaker stumbles. What matters is that you keep going. By consistently facing that fear and preparing with intention, you chip away at its control over you. One presentation at a time. One uncomfortable moment at a time. Your fear begins to loosen its grip. Slowly, steadily, you begin to build something powerful, confidence. And not the loud, arrogant kind, but a quiet, grounded confidence born of experience. Now, if fear is a loud voice that shouts, shame is a quiet one that whispers. Shame is more insidious. It's not just a fear of failure, it's the belief that you are a failure. A deeply rooted feeling that you're not enough, that you're flawed, broken, or unworthy. It's the kind of emotion that doesn't need words to wound you. It lives in the background, quietly shaping how you see yourself. Where does this shame come from? Often, it grows out of societal expectations or unresolved mistakes from our past. It's that moment you regret. That thing you wish you hadn't said. That version of you that no longer exists, but somehow, you're still carrying the weight. Here's where Stoicism speaks with profound clarity. It doesn't tell you to ignore shame. It tells you to confront it. With courage. With compassion. Because true courage isn't about being fearless. It's about looking directly at your flaws, your failures, your darkest moments, and saying, this is not the end of me. This is a lesson. Imagine a moment in your life that still carries the sting of shame. Maybe it's a mistake you made in a relationship. Maybe it's a time you gave up too early or let someone down. Instead of letting that moment quietly poison your self-worth, Stoicism encourages you to face it head-on. Ask yourself, why did I make that choice? What mindset was I in? What have I learned since then? This process of reflection is not about reliving pain, it's about reclaiming your power. When you understand the why, you unlock the how to grow, how to avoid repeating the mistake, how to evolve into the person you now strive to be. And this is the beginning of transforming shame from a burden into a valuable teacher. In the next section, we'll dive even deeper into this process, by exploring how self-forgiveness becomes the turning point for healing and freedom. Rather than letting shame grow into a source of self-loathing, Stoicism offers a much more powerful and liberating path: self-forgiveness. This is where true healing begins, because holding on to shame is like walking with a weight chained to your ankle. It slows you down. It drains your energy. It keeps you circling the same regrets over and over again in your mind. You become trapped in an endless loop of self-criticism, where every mistake feels like proof that you are not enough. But when you forgive yourself, truly forgive yourself, something changes. You don't erase the past, but you stop allowing it to define your present. You acknowledge what happened. You own the mistake. You understand it. And then, you let it go. This isn't about excusing harmful behavior or pretending you've never faltered. Self-forgiveness doesn't mean what I did was fine. It means, what I did taught me something. It's a declaration that your growth is more powerful than your guilt. So how do you begin to practice overcoming fear and shame? Start small. Begin by gradually exposing yourself to the thoughts, memories, or situations that make you uncomfortable. Don't dive into the deep end, dip your toes in. Step by step. Confront the places in your life where fear still whispers and shame still lingers. Maybe it's having an honest conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it's standing up for yourself in a situation where you once stayed silent. Use every experience, no matter how small, as an opportunity to learn, to adapt, and to grow. This process of gradual exposure, paired with intentional reflection, helps to desensitize the emotional charge behind fear and shame. The more you face these feelings instead of running from them, the less they control you. What once terrified you starts to feel manageable. What once shamed you no longer defines you. Stoicism also reminds us that we're not meant to walk this path alone. Community matters. When you share your fears, your mistakes, your moments of shame with a trusted friend, mentor, or loved one, you open a door. You allow light into the darkest parts of your story. And more often than not, you discover that you're not alone. Others have walked similar paths. They've made similar mistakes. And they've grown. Just like you can. In fact, opening up can be one of the most powerful acts of courage, and one of the most healing. Sometimes, just hearing someone say "I've been there too" is enough to dissolve the illusion that you are broken beyond repair. And speaking of being prepared for life's challenges, this is where Epictetus offers yet another timeless insight. By anticipating obstacles, we can approach them not with panic, but with preparation. This idea isn't about becoming pessimistic. It's not about expecting the worst to happen, it's about being mentally ready if it does. When you envision potential difficulties before they arrive, you're not caught off guard when they finally appear. You've already rehearsed your response. You've already trained your mind to remain calm. So how exactly do we do that? Let's explore one of Stoicism's most practical mental exercises, premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils, in the next section. This simple but powerful practice can sharpen your resilience in ways you never imagined. This powerful mindset of resilience begins with a Stoic technique known as premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. At first glance, the phrase might sound a little ominous. But in truth, it's not about being pessimistic, it's about being prepared. This practice involves taking a quiet moment before important events, big decisions, high-stakes conversations, or life changes, and intentionally imagining what could go wrong. It's not about worrying or catastrophizing. It's about mentally walking through challenges before they arrive, so they don't knock you off your feet when they do. Let's say you're preparing for a big meeting. Instead of simply hoping everything goes smoothly, you pause and ask yourself, what if the presentation doesn't load? What if I'm asked a question I don't know how to answer? What if nerves get the better of me? You picture these moments, not to panic, but to prepare. By envisioning each scenario, you plan your responses with intention. If the slides crash, maybe you've already printed a backup. If a tough question arises, maybe you've rehearsed how to redirect or respond calmly. This kind of mental rehearsal doesn't just reduce anxiety, it builds confidence. And that's the beauty of premeditatio malorum. You're not dwelling on worst-case scenarios. You're building mental muscle. You're rehearsing grace under pressure. When the moment comes, you're not scrambling, you're ready. This kind of foresight trains you to stay composed. Even when the unexpected hits, you become the person who keeps calm in chaos. The one who adapts swiftly while others spiral. That's one of the highest forms of Stoic strength. Composure without rigidity. Because let's be honest, life rarely follows your script. Meetings get delayed. Plans fall through. People change. And if you're clinging too tightly to how you hoped things would go, disappointment is guaranteed. But if you've already considered that things may not go as expected, you're far more flexible. You adapt, pivot, and keep moving forward with clarity. This adaptability isn't just helpful, it's essential in a world full of uncertainties. The Stoic doesn't fear change. They anticipate it. But while it's crucial to think ahead about what could go wrong, it's equally important to stay grounded in your strengths. Visualizing obstacles should always be paired with a clear awareness of your resources, your skills, your experiences, your support systems. Think of it as carrying a toolkit. You don't just imagine the roadblocks. You remind yourself that you already hold the tools to face them. This balanced mindset is key. It helps you prepare without spiraling into anxiety. You're alert, not alarmed. You're realistic, not rigid. And here's something else. This practice builds patience and perseverance. When you know that challenges are inevitable, they stop feeling like personal failures. They become part of the journey. You learn to endure with strength instead of resisting with fear. As we move forward, let's explore how this Stoic mindset of preparedness helps cultivate long-term endurance. Because anticipating obstacles is just the beginning. Real mastery lies in how you continue showing up, especially when things don't go your way. As we continue deepening our understanding of Stoic resilience, one powerful truth becomes clear. Resilience is a mindset built over time, not overnight. It doesn't demand perfection, but it does ask for persistence. When you commit to this philosophy, you start to develop a long-term perspective, one that values patience over quick wins. You stop measuring progress by immediate outcomes and begin to see growth as something forged slowly, through consistent effort and reflection. Each small victory, each quiet step forward, becomes part of a much greater journey. And when setbacks come, as they always do, you don't break. Instead, you bend, adjust, and keep going. That ability to endure with strength, to remain steady even when the ground feels shaky, is a cornerstone of Stoic thought. But endurance doesn't arise from willpower alone. It's strengthened through intentional reflection. Take time regularly to look back on your path. Ask yourself, what were the biggest obstacles I've faced? How did I respond? What worked? And what didn't? What could I handle better next time? This habit of reflection is more than introspection, it's a strategy. It allows you to recognize patterns in your reactions, your decision-making, and your emotional triggers. And with that knowledge, you're not just living, you're evolving. Now pair that reflection with mindfulness, and you have something even more powerful. Mindfulness sharpens your awareness in the moment, it anchors you. Instead of being swept away by rising stress or emotional noise, you begin to recognize your thoughts as they arise. Observe your emotions without judgment, and respond with clarity. Think of mindfulness as your early warning system. It helps you notice potential obstacles before they become full-blown crises. It teaches you to pause, breathe, and respond instead of react. Even in high-pressure situations, that single moment of awareness, that sacred space between stimulus and response, gives you your power back. Your mind becomes your ally, not your saboteur. And that's exactly what Epictetus meant when he said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The world is full of events outside our control, unfair judgments, difficult conversations, sudden losses. But how we choose to respond, that belongs to us. That choice, moment after moment, is what defines your character. That's where inner strength is forged, not in denying difficulty, but in meeting it with presence, grace, and purpose. And it all begins with one simple act: noticing your emotions, without letting them control your next move. So now, as we journey forward, let's explore how to deepen this inner mastery, how to recognize your emotional patterns, rise above reactivity, and use Stoic wisdom to transform emotional turbulence into clarity and control. And now, we take another step forward on the path of inner mastery. To build true strength within, the Stoics never taught us to ignore or suppress our emotions. On the contrary, they urged us to observe them carefully, to understand where they come from, and to avoid becoming their prisoner. Imagine your emotions like waves rolling toward you. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf them. That's what self-awareness does. When you know what triggers you, what makes you anxious, angry, insecure, you can pause before reacting. And in that pause, you find power. You respond intentionally, not impulsively. That's the first foundation of real strength. Stoicism also teaches one of its most essential truths: learn to separate what's within your control from what's not. It may sound simple, but this one principle has changed lives for centuries. We can't control what others think, say, or do. We can't control setbacks, weather, or fate. But we can control our thoughts, our choices, and how we show up in any situation. That shift in perspective is not only empowering, it's liberating. When you focus your energy on what you can actually influence, your mindset, your attitude, your effort, you stop wasting it on what you can't. And suddenly, you find yourself more centered, less anxious, and much harder to shake. And here's another truth we often overlook: forgiveness is strength. Holding on to resentment, grudges, and bitterness, that's like carrying a burning coal hoping it hurts someone else. All it does is scorch your own peace. Stoicism teaches us to let go, not because others deserve it, but because you deserve freedom. To forgive is not to excuse. It's not to forget. It's simply to release the emotional poison that's weighing you down. It's to say, you no longer get to take up space in my mind. That choice clears the path for healing, clarity, and growth. Now, let's talk about resilience, because life will not always be smooth. In fact, the Stoics assumed it wouldn't be. But rather than fear adversity, they welcomed it. Why? Because every hardship is a gym for the soul. Every setback is a chance to practice perseverance, patience, and courage. Over time, this mindset transforms you. You stop breaking under pressure. You begin to bend, to adapt, to endure. And that endurance becomes the quiet confidence that can't be faked, the kind that turns storms into sharpening stones. Whether you're facing rejection, failure, or unexpected challenges, resilience whispers, "I've been here before. I'll make it through." And remember, you don't have to do it alone. The Stoics didn't believe strength meant isolation. In fact, they urged us to seek support, to surround ourselves with people who strengthen us. Find a community, a mentor, a friend who holds you to a higher standard. Draw from your faith, your values, and your purpose. Because real strength isn't just about holding the weight alone, it's about knowing when to share the load. Now, as we continue forward, let's explore how gratitude and perspective can help you rise above life's trials, not just to survive them, but to emerge wiser, calmer, and more powerful than ever before. This self-acceptance forms the very foundation of emotional resilience. When you stop hiding your fears and start naming them, something profound happens: they begin to lose their power over you. Vulnerability, when embraced with honesty and compassion, becomes a gateway to deeper strength. You no longer feel the need to wear a mask. You begin to live from your core, with integrity, with clarity, and with courage. That's the kind of strength that doesn't shout. It radiates, quietly, consistently, and unshakably. And in the Stoic tradition, gratitude is not a fleeting feeling, it's a disciplined practice. When life feels overwhelming, and chaos pulls at your attention, pausing to give thanks, even for the smallest things, acts like a reset button for your mind. It's how you shift from scarcity to abundance, from frustration to focus. Gratitude doesn't mean denying your struggles. It means seeing the beauty that still exists alongside the struggle. It's noticing a sunrise on the morning of a tough day. It's recognizing the strength you've built through hardship. It's remembering the people who support you, even when things go wrong. By practicing gratitude daily, you train your mind to return to what's stable, what's present, and what's good. That becomes your baseline. That becomes your emotional anchor. And don't underestimate the power of connection. We aren't meant to walk this journey alone. Whether through friendships, mentorships, or faith, surrounding yourself with people who uplift you will amplify your inner strength. Their presence reminds you, you are supported, you are valued, and you are never alone. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And I'd add, it also takes on the shape of its surroundings. That's why it's so important to spend time with those who help you grow, challenge your thinking, and walk with you, not just when life is easy, but especially when it's hard. So ask yourself, who in your life strengthens your spirit? Who reminds you of your values when you forget? Who challenges you to become better without judgment? Surround yourself with them. Because inner strength, like fire, grows brighter when it's fed, not only from within but from the warmth of those who believe in you. And now that we've explored the power of gratitude, community, and vulnerability, let's move forward, because in the next part, we'll uncover how to master one of the Stoics' most important habits, reflecting daily to strengthen clarity. Just as we explored how gratitude, community, and self-acceptance fortify your internal foundation, there's one more critical element that elevates inner strength: restraint. The ability to pause, reflect, and respond with clarity instead of impulse. This is what separates reaction from wisdom. Restraint is not weakness. It is strategy. It is a vital component of inner strength, allowing you to move through life with authenticity and confidence. And no, this doesn't mean bottling up your emotions or pretending they don't exist. It means acknowledging your feelings, recognizing them fully, without giving them the steering wheel. Think of it this way: between the moment something happens and the moment you react, there is a powerful space. In that space lies your freedom, the freedom to pause, to breathe, and to choose your next move. That's where emotional mastery is built. Let's put it into something familiar. Imagine you're driving in heavy traffic. Someone swerves abruptly into your lane, forcing you to brake hard. Instantly, your heart races, anger surges, maybe even your hand moves toward the horn. But here's where Stoicism comes in. Instead of letting that flash of emotion dictate your response, you pause. You ask yourself, will honking or yelling change what just happened? Will it solve anything, or only steal my peace? When you choose to stay calm in that moment, you protect your peace. You stay in control. And that small victory? That's how strength is built, not in big dramatic acts, but in the quiet mastery of everyday emotions. The same applies to life's bigger temptations, the pull toward instant gratification. We live in a world wired for speed, fast food, instant likes, quick dopamine hits. But Stoicism reminds us that long-term fulfillment is far more valuable than momentary pleasure. That patience is a virtue not because it feels good, but because it shapes greatness. It takes real discipline to delay gratification, to say no to the easy win so you can pursue something deeper, something more meaningful. Think about your goals, your health, your craft, your relationships. In all these areas, restraint is the quiet force that keeps you moving forward when everyone else is chasing shortcuts. And perhaps one of the most important areas to practice restraint in your words. In moments of tension or disagreement, it's so tempting to speak from frustration, to prove a point, to be right. But Stoicism asks something bolder, to be wise instead. Before speaking, ask yourself, will these words build or break? Are they aligned with my values? Will I regret saying this when emotions settle? Because once words leave your mouth, you can't take them back. But when you choose silence, or when you speak with calm purpose, you gain influence without force. You earn respect without demand. So what does it really mean to be strong? It means knowing when to wait, when to hold, when to respond with grace instead of aggression. It's about becoming a master of your reactions, not a servant to them. And that mastery doesn't come overnight. It comes from 1,000 tiny pauses, 1,000 quiet choices. That's where peace is forged. That's where resilience grows. So now, as we continue our journey into Stoic wisdom, let's explore a timeless discipline that builds this inner mastery day by day. The practice of daily reflection. Because sometimes the most powerful tool for growth is a few minutes of silence with yourself. Ask yourself this: do your words, your actions, and your decisions reflect your values? When you speak mindfully, choosing your words not just from reaction, but from reflection, you begin to build relationships rooted in respect, not ego. You become someone others listen to, not because you're the loudest in the room, but because your words carry thought, depth, and meaning. That's what self-restraint gives you, credibility and clarity. But like any skill worth mastering, self-restraint requires two powerful allies, self-awareness and discipline. It's not something that simply appears when life tests you. It's something you practice day by day. In quiet moments and small decisions. You begin by recognizing your impulses, noticing them without judgment. And then, with practice, you start choosing differently. For example, do you tend to procrastinate when something feels uncomfortable? Instead of spiraling into guilt, build a system that supports you. Create a structured schedule that's realistic and tailored to your energy. Celebrate completing even the smallest task, because each act of follow-through is a vote for the person you're becoming. Or let's say you struggle with anger. You snap when stressed. Rather than shaming yourself, train your body to recognize the early signs. Incorporate breathing techniques. Use meditation, journaling, or a short walk to reset your nervous system. These small rituals create space where reason can step in. And that's what Stoicism is all about. It emphasizes the supremacy of reason over impulse. It teaches us that wisdom isn't found in instinctive reactions, but in thoughtful responses. Imagine this: you're at work, and a major decision lands in your lap. Tension is high. Deadlines loom. You feel pressure to respond fast. But what would the Stoics do? They'd slow down, step back, gather facts, reflect on the possible outcomes, not just for today, but for your future self. They'd ask, does this decision align with the kind of person I want to be? When you act from that mindset, your confidence grows, not from being perfect, but from being intentional. Restraint isn't about being passive. It's not avoidance. It's about being deliberate, focused, unshakable. It's the difference between being swept away by life's currents and steering your own course. When you know that your actions flow from conscious intention, not from fleeting emotion, you become a person of trust, both to yourself and others. Every action carries weight. And with restraint, we carry it with honor. And here's another tool that can sharpen this muscle: daily reflection. Take just a few minutes each evening. Ask yourself, where did I act impulsively today? Where did I hold my ground with grace? What would I do differently tomorrow? These questions don't just help you improve. They reprogram your brain to choose wisely next time. Over time, your default becomes strength, not reaction. Purpose, not impulse. And with that clarity comes peace. A peace that cannot be disturbed by external noise. Because it's rooted deep inside your own awareness. Up next, we'll explore a Stoic virtue that's both ancient and incredibly timely, living in harmony with nature and with yourself. So, as you continue your journey toward restraint, ask yourself regularly, what triggered my impulse today? What did I feel in that split second before I reacted? And most importantly, how might I respond differently next time? In a way that aligns with my values, not my emotions. This ongoing inner dialogue, this quiet, courageous self-inventory, is what sharpens your awareness. And the more aware you become, the more power you gain over your decisions. You stop reacting out of habit and start acting with intention. One thoughtful pause at a time. You reclaim control over your actions, and your life. But how do we actually build this muscle of restraint? One practical approach that the Stoics would wholeheartedly embrace is the cultivation of daily mindfulness. Mindfulness is more than just a trendy word. It's a discipline, a deliberate training of the mind to stay rooted in the present moment. And that matters. Because impulses often arise when we're not present, when we're distracted, overwhelmed, or hijacked by emotion. Even 5 minutes of daily mindfulness, through meditation, deep breathing, or simply observing your environment, can help you spot those urges as they arise. Instead of automatically reacting, you'll catch yourself in the moment and choose a different path. That's real power. That's Stoic power. Now, let's talk about something equally vital in Stoic practice, acceptance. Imagine this: you've just lost your job. The panic rises. The self-doubt creeps in. Your mind races through worst-case scenarios. That's a natural reaction, but it's also where many people get stuck. The Stoic, however, responds differently. They start by acknowledging the truth. Yes, this happened. It's painful. It's real. But then, instead of resisting the reality, they lean into it. They stop wasting energy on "why me?" and start asking, "what's next?" That's because acceptance is not surrender. It's strength. Epictetus taught that we cannot control external events, only our response to them. Acceptance is what turns pain into perspective. It's what transforms setbacks into fuel. By accepting the loss of a job, for instance, you unlock your ability to act with clarity. You can now update your resume, reach out to your network, learn a new skill, or explore a different path. This mental shift doesn't erase your hardship, it equips you to handle it. One powerful way to cultivate this mindset is, again, through mindfulness. Each time you sit quietly and observe your thoughts, without judgment, you're building the capacity to accept life as it is. Not just how you wish it would be. You learn to hold space for discomfort without letting it consume you. Over time, you'll begin to notice a change. You're no longer at war with reality. You're moving with it, not against it. This alone creates a deep sense of peace. And here's something to remember: acceptance isn't weakness. It's wisdom in motion. The Stoics never taught us to roll over and take what life gives us without effort. They taught us to stop fighting what we cannot change, so we can redirect our energy toward what we can. And once you truly master the art of acceptance, you become unshakable, not because life is easier, but because you've stopped resisting the flow and started navigating it with purpose. So far, we've explored how acceptance isn't surrender, but rather the beginning of purposeful action. But let's take it deeper. What if we told ourselves, every difficult moment is not a detour, but a teacher? That's where the Stoic mindset truly shifts our world. You see, every event, no matter how painful or unexpected, holds a lesson, a hidden opportunity, a seed of wisdom waiting to grow. When something doesn't go your way, don't just react, pause. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How might this make me wiser, more resilient, more equipped for what's to come? This shift in mindset turns burdens into building blocks. Challenges become chisels, sculpting a stronger version of you with every blow. Suddenly, What once felt like a setback transforms into a stepping stone. And here's another layer of acceptance that's often overlooked: letting go of perfectionism. How many of us chase the perfect life, the perfect job, the perfect relationship? We strive, we push, we measure ourselves against impossible standards. But the Stoics would remind us, perfection is a myth, and clinging to it only breeds suffering. True peace comes from recognizing that we are works in progress. Not broken, not failing, but beautifully incomplete. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up or settling, it means celebrating the honest effort, the journey, and the growth. It means saying, I did my best today, and that's enough. By releasing the pressure to be flawless, we create room for compassion, toward ourselves and others. We become kinder, more grounded, and ironically, even more effective, because our energy is no longer drained by self-criticism. And here's a secret weapon in the practice of acceptance: gratitude. Gratitude shifts your vision. It turns a cloudy lens clear. Instead of obsessing over what's missing, you begin to notice what's already here. The warmth of a morning coffee, a small win, a lesson learned the hard way. When you regularly pause to say, thank you, you train your mind to see abundance in a world that often screams scarcity. Even in hardship, you'll find that gratitude opens the door to clarity. It doesn't erase pain, but it gives it context. Now, let's talk about relationships, because acceptance matters here more than almost anywhere. How often do we wish others would change? That they'd act differently, speak more kindly, make choices that make sense to us? But holding rigid expectations over other people's behavior only leads to disappointment. When we try to control others, we poison connection. Acceptance in relationships doesn't mean tolerating harm or enabling poor behavior. It means acknowledging that every person is on their own path, that they, too, are flawed, confused, learning, just like us. And in that recognition, we find space to practice empathy. We stop fixing and start understanding. This creates room for authentic connection. Not relationships built on pressure or performance, but rooted in respect, compassion, and shared growth. And as we start living this way, more present, more open, more aligned with truth, we begin to touch a deeper Stoic teaching: living according to nature. This isn't about forests and waterfalls, though those are nice. This is about aligning with your true nature, living in harmony with the world, and with who you are at your core. The Stoics, especially Epictetus, believed that we are not just physical beings, but rational and social beings. That means our highest potential is found not in chasing pleasure or comfort, but in acting with reason, integrity, and compassion. So what does it mean to live according to nature in today's world? It starts with one word: self-awareness. Let's keep going. In the last segment, we explored how living in alignment with nature means living authentically. But how exactly do we live this truth in a world full of distractions, demands, and noise? It begins with one powerful act: introspection. Living according to nature means taking time to look inward, to reflect on our values, our strengths, and our sense of purpose. Who are you when the noise fades? What principles guide your choices? What do you truly care about? Not because the world told you to, but because your soul knows it matters. Through introspection, we begin to see where we've been living out of sync, chasing approval, copying others, or following expectations that never really belonged to us. And in that clarity, something powerful happens. We begin to make decisions that honor our true selves. This isn't about becoming selfish. It's about becoming aligned. It's about letting go of the pressure to perform and learning to act from a place of purpose, not fear. But living according to nature doesn't stop with inner clarity. It also means accepting the rhythms of life. Just as the seasons shift from spring to summer to fall and winter, so do we. We grow, we plateau, we decline, we begin again. And when we embrace these cycles rather than resisting them, life becomes far more peaceful. Instead of fearing change, we move with it. Instead of mourning every ending, we start to see them as part of a larger, beautiful pattern. There is wisdom in every season: growth, stillness, loss, renewal. To live according to nature is to trust these rhythms, and at the core of it all are the virtues. These are the guiding lights of Stoic living: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Let's break that down. Wisdom gives us clarity. It helps us see the truth behind the noise and make thoughtful, informed choices, not impulsive ones. Courage gives us strength. It's what helps us act, even when we're afraid. Even when the odds are against us. Justice keeps us grounded. It reminds us to act honorably, to treat others fairly, and to hold ourselves to high ethical standards, even when no one is watching. Temperance gives us balance. It teaches us restraint, moderation, and the ability to hold steady in a world that constantly pulls us to extremes. These aren't abstract ideals, they're daily practices. They're the armor that helps us move through life with clarity, dignity, and integrity. And there's one more truth we can't ignore: we are social beings. Living according to nature means recognizing that we are connected to each other, to our communities, to the human family as a whole. You were not meant to go through life isolated or indifferent. You were meant to build, contribute, serve, and connect. Stoicism reminds us to practice empathy, to understand rather than judge, to offer kindness, even when it's hard, to listen before speaking, and to lift others up, knowing that a rising tide lifts all ships. When we live this way, when we practice compassion, cooperation, and community, we not only fulfill our social nature, we create a life that feels rich in meaning. And finally, there is simplicity. In a world that glorifies more possessions, more distractions, more opinions, Stoicism calls us to choose less. Less noise, less drama, less clutter. Simplicity isn't lack. It's freedom. Freedom to focus on what really matters. Freedom to live with intention. Freedom to live lightly, and yet feel full. So, what might your life look like if you chose to live this way? That's what we'll explore in the next principle, because when we start living in harmony with our true nature, the next step is learning how to let go of what we can't control, and master what we can. Continuing from our last insight on living in harmony with nature, what does that truly look like in our everyday lives? It begins with one powerful choice: focusing on what truly matters. In a world that constantly bombards us with distractions, notifications, social media, endless advertising, and the pressure to accumulate more, it's easy to lose our way. We start chasing things we don't need, comparing ourselves to others, and forgetting what actually makes us feel alive. That's where the wisdom of Stoicism offers clarity. The Stoics invite us to strip away the noise, the clutter, the endless pursuit of more, and return to what's essential. What are your core values? What relationships truly nourish you? What activities bring you peace and help you grow? Sometimes, this means simplifying your lifestyle. It could be reducing your commitments, decluttering your space, or saying no to things that drain your energy. Other times, it's about prioritizing the people who uplift you, or carving out quiet time for reading, reflection, or a walk under the open sky. When you remove the excess, what remains is pure, meaningful, and lasting. You create space for personal growth. You begin to care for yourself, not through luxury, but through purposeful attention to your mind and soul. This is where fulfillment begins, not in having more, but in needing less. But Stoicism doesn't stop there. It also reminds us to live with acceptance and gratitude, two powerful forces that keep us grounded in peace. Living according to nature means learning to accept what we can't control: the people around us, the outcome of events, the twists and turns of life. You might not be able to predict every challenge, but you can always choose your mindset. Let go of the need to force outcomes, and instead trust the process of life. And when things don't go as planned, instead of frustration, Try gratitude. Gratitude transforms the way we experience life. It shifts our focus from scarcity to abundance. From what's missing to what's present. From longing to contentment. It's not about ignoring problems. It's about learning to see the good that still exists. Even when times are hard. A warm meal. A friend who checks in. A lesson learned through struggle. Gratitude is the gateway to joy, and Stoicism teaches us that true strength comes from knowing how to be content without complacency. And finally, one more dimension of living according to nature is often overlooked, our relationship with the natural world itself. The Stoics believed that we are not separate from nature, we are a part of it. And with that truth comes responsibility. To live harmoniously with the earth. To care for the environment. To make choices that respect the world we inherit and the one we leave behind. Whether it's reducing waste, being mindful of how we consume, or simply pausing to appreciate the beauty of a tree, a river, or a sunrise, every act of awareness deepens our connection to life. So ask yourself, what can I let go of today? What matters most to me? What is one small way I can honor the natural world I'm a part of? These questions don't just bring clarity, they bring calm. And as we continue, we'll now turn to one of the most powerful Stoic teachings of all, how to accept change without fear, and find peace in life's inevitable impermanence. And to truly live according to nature, we must also take responsibility for preserving it. This means being mindful of how we interact with the environment, not just as consumers, but as caretakers. Every time we make a sustainable choice, every time we reduce waste or choose to reuse rather than discard, we are acknowledging our role within a greater ecosystem. We're not separate from nature, we're woven into its fabric. When you walk through a forest, swim in a lake, or simply breathe in the fresh morning air, you are sharing space with something far older and wiser than yourself. To respect that is not just a duty, it's an act of spiritual alignment. By honoring nature, you honor yourself. And by living in a way that supports the earth, you contribute to the well-being of future generations, those who will inherit the world we shape today. Now, how do we stay in tune with that sense of harmony? The answer lies in mindfulness. Bringing mindfulness into your daily life is like tuning an instrument. It allows you to align your inner world with the rhythm of life around you. Whether through quiet meditation, slow deep breaths, or simply noticing the color of the sky, mindfulness grounds you in the present moment. It helps you respond, rather than react, to act intentionally, not impulsively. And with each mindful choice, you strengthen your connection to your values, to others, and to the natural world. You begin to live not out of habit, but with purpose, not at the mercy of distraction, but with clarity. So, as we come to the close of this journey through the timeless teachings of Stoicism, I invite you to pause and reflect. What does true power look like to you? Stoicism teaches us that it's not about controlling the chaos around us. It's about mastering our inner responses. It's not about avoiding adversity, it's about transforming it. It's not about chasing perfection, it's about embracing progress with patience, resilience, and grace. Let this philosophy become your compass. Let it guide you, not just through the storms, but through the calm, through the victories and the losses, through the moments when you feel strong, and the ones when you don't. Because the real strength, the unshakable power, that comes from within. Thank you for walking this path with us. If you found value in this video, we invite you to stay with us on this journey. Check out one of the suggested videos now showing on your screen. And remember, stay strong, stay grounded, and never stop seeking wisdom. When you live by these 10 Stoic principles, something changes. The noise around you gets quieter. The drama loses its grip. And suddenly, what used to shake you doesn't even touch you. You don't control the world, but you control the one thing that matters, your response to it. So let them talk. Let life twist and turn. Let storms rise. You stay rooted. You breathe. You move with purpose. Because nothing out there is stronger than what you've built in here. This is the Stoic way. Not cold, but calm. Not emotionless, but emotionally free. Master these principles, and you'll no longer ask, how do I survive this? You'll ask, how can I grow from this, and remain unshaken?